Hey y'all, love from Southeast Texas, Khaki here. Welcome to my home. So y'all, let me tell you something. I learned a very valuable lesson recently. I sure did. I told you guys I would have another video out the following Monday after the first one that I put out. And the valuable lesson that I learned was never promise a video unless you already have it made and ready to go. Because when I tell you life started life, and I think that was like literally maybe 3 weeks ago now. But I finally made it, finally got some quiet time where I could get my thoughts together, and so here I am to share with you all. What's really been on my heart since early in September has been the Gen Xers, my fellow Gen Xers. Because, like the internet is just exploding with Gen X. And I think it's fantastic in a way because we actually do have some of the younger generations reaching out to us going, hey, is this really true? How did you do this? How did you survive this? And wow, I don't know. I really didn't think it was anything all that special myself. I actually spent the majority of my life thinking that all of these things were happening just to me. I didn't realize until much later on in life that, it's kind of like our whole generation was having the same problems. And I'm a real get to the root of the problem kind of a person. I will study on something until the cows come home, trying to figure out what's at the root of the problem here. And well, I'm not going to say I've got it figured out, but I have a theory. I have a theory that they did this to our generation on purpose. They made it to where our mothers not only had the desire to get out of the house to work, to prove something, but also the necessity of that, because all of a sudden dad's paycheck just wasn't quite enough to get that house with the picket fence and the 2 vehicles and the 2.5 kids. The thing that they were given as the American dream. Like, this is your goal. More like, here's your carrot. And so, yeah, we were like the first generation that our parents left us alone to sort of fend for ourselves and get it, get her done, right? Just get her done. And again, I didn't come from a household where my mother had to work. I'm sure our lives would have been easier, and I could have had more things if she had, but she didn't have to. We were able to eat and keep a roof over our heads, and that's, all that was necessary as far as my parents were concerned. My dad was like a stickler about my mom wasn't going to work. Old-fashioned. But even though my mom didn't work, she still wasn't there for me. I was born very late in life to my parents. My mom was 36 and my dad was 41. And so, uh, they, like my sister closest to me is 9 years older than I am. So can you imagine? Can you just put yourself in that position for a moment? You've got a 9-year-old child. You're not thinking about diapers and baby bottles anymore for the rest of your life. And my mom only wanted the first one that she ever had anyway. The rest of us just sort of came along because my dad wanted more kids. But, so yeah, even though my mom was home, she still wasn't present. She still wasn't there for me. And yeah, like everybody else, that bothered me for a lot of years, But again, I'm always trying to get to the root of the problem. Like, where was she acting from? And I actually know the answer to that question. She told me on a number of occasions. When she was young, she was the youngest out of all of her family, and the siblings and the aunts and whatnot were grown and had children of their own. And so my mom was like in that middle age, 12, 13 years old. Well, she got to be the babysitter every weekend because her side of the family liked to party. And so from a very young age, she was stuck watching kids and taking care of children. And she told my dad right after they got married that she didn't want to have children right away. She was kind of tired of taking care of kids. I totally get that, y'all. So they did. They waited until they had the first one. And, again, my mom was satisfied with that. But my dad was one of these people, oh, well, you can't just have one. They'll be spoiled. And it was a boy even. But Dad wanted more. So they had another one. And that time she had a girl. And so my mom was just absolutely done after that. She's like, well, what more could you want? We have a boy and a girl. We got the 2 kids and the house with the picket fence. Still working on that second car. But, yeah, so the last 2 that she had, she really didn't want. And Lord, by the time I came along, I don't want to say she hated me. That's kind of strong. I don't think she hated me. She just really resented the hell out of me. Okay. She did. And you know what? I get it. It didn't help the heartache that I had to work through there, knowing that my mom never wanted me. I had to work through that. But again, I also wanted to put myself in her shoes and, ask her why. And I'm an empathetic person. I totally get where she was coming from. And I'm really sorry that she had to do it, honestly. She would have done other things with her life, I'm sure. But, such is the way that it is. I mean, life throws things at us sometimes. And some people out there think that we actually sign up for it. Like we're given the option ahead of time and we choose it. It's a little hard for me to believe sometimes, but I suppose anything is possible, right? But there were onslaughts against us in so many different ways. For one thing, when we were very young, something about television changed. And at a very critical time. Because if you Gen X guys will think about it out there for a moment, if I say Baywatch or Magnum PI, or I'm sure there's any number of others, I really wasn't much of a television person, but I remember being sort of incensed, I guess might be a good word, at the way the ladies were dressed on those particular programs. I mean, they're bikini clad, hot chicks, right? But I had been raised up in a very conservative home, so it was sort of shocking to me. And, it depended on how bad it actually got, but my parents would talk about how raunchy these programs were, and we're not going to watch that, and, all of that sort of thing. But in those households out there who actually did have parents that were working, sometimes well into the evening even, like, it was the first time that this television was really beginning to change what would be considered our moral code as a nation, I think. And I mean, you can argue for or against all day. I personally gave up on television, like, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years ago, long time. I just don't watch it anymore. But again, getting to the root of the problem, they show us what they want us to deem normal, practical, what our goals should be that we wish to attain. They show that to us. And they always have. Once I really started to get curious about this, I went way back to some of the early television shows that my parents liked to watch, Perry Mason. I couldn't remember the name there for a minute because my dad always called him Old Ironsides. I know it goes back to something else, but I don't remember what. At any rate, even back then, the earliest television programs that they put out there, they've got these people riding around in these really nice, long, fancy cars with telephones. One of the episodes that I watched, there was even an actual mobile phone in the car. They're driving around in California, eating out at fine restaurants every night after work, and dressed to the nines. Just this image that is portrayed. And I'm thinking, where I grew up, people were actually pretty well off, because I lived in Southeast Texas, and the oil industry, it just been booming here since like 1901. So comparatively with other parts of the country, we do pretty well here as well, but not that well. Like, nobody's driving these long fancy Cadillac cars and whatnot and going out to dinner every night and all of it. Not back then. But these were the goals that they were given to achieve. This is what was set before them to be the mirror of what they should reflect. And that is the extent of what Hollywood has been from the very beginning, and still is to this day. But they injured us, Gen X, I believe, on a level that nobody really talks about. But no matter what they tried to do, it just didn't seem to stick with us. Am I the only one who believes that? I don't think so. Like, it just didn't work with us. To a certain extent, you know, we would get caught up here and there with marketing, I guess you would say. But I don't know, I just don't think it impacted us exactly the way they expected it to, or the way it had impacted the generations prior to us. I'm not sure why. It just didn't. And they had us believing all kinds of things, that, you know, aliens were going to be visiting, that there were sharks that existed out there that were large enough to swallow whole boats, and I don't know. But they, try as they might, they may have weakened us for a bit, and they may have drove us into a corner with a pencil and pad, or I don't know, just whatever we could do to occupy our minds and hide. And they did do that to us for a while. Like, we were the keep your head down generation, right? We just got up, went to school, went to work, went out for a little while, maybe in the evenings, and then came home and went to bed and got up the next day and did the same thing. You know, just heads down and nose to the grindstone. And we never thought anything of it. It was just, that was our life, you know. We were still running towards the carrot of the house with the picket fence, the 2.5 kids, and the 2 vehicles, you know. What else were we supposed to do, right? Oh, if only. But, you know, once I started figuring all of this stuff out, and I really got, like, majorly bummed, because I'm like, half of my life is over. And I spent all those years wasting all that time trying to chase these dreams and feeling bad about myself because I could not attain these things for myself. Why? I don't know. I actually never really considered myself that hard to get along with, but yeah. 2 marriages and 1 very long, serious relationship later, and I'm still, alone again, I should say, not still. Although that might have a ring of truth to it, too. But you know what? I had to change that. I had to flip that switch. Because, like, I don't know about you, I really don't feel any older. I've still got maybe not 60 years to go, but I guarantee you I've got at least another 20, maybe 30. And, yeah, like, I intend to make this the best time of my life, because I have that wisdom. I have those critical thinking skills. Again, as far as our blessings as Gen X goes, we are the last generation that can actually remember coming into our adulthood in the non-computer, non-technical age. and really being in on the grassroots of bringing technology into our daily lives. I mean, we were the ones that had to do the hardcore studying because Windows wasn't a thing and it was difficult. But that's okay. We were built for it, right? Like that was right up our alley. That's what we wanted. We wanted to be challenged. But for all the promises of how computers were going to make our lives better and make things more efficient and easier, let me see a show of hands if you actually believe that's true. I was thinking about it earlier. You know, one of these days I would really like to take the same size plate of food, for example, and have someone warm it in the microwave to the point where it's edible and not completely destroyed, versus warming the same plate full of food either on the stove or even in the oven. And I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty darn convinced that they probably take about the same amount of time. But I can guarantee you the food that you warm the old-fashioned way, quote unquote, is gonna taste a lot better. Because it isn't cooked half to death on a molecular level. Just saying. Yeah. I was telling my child the other day that, you know, like, I remember a time when if you had an issue with, just say something you bought from the grocery store, and you had an issue or a question, you could call the store and someone would answer the phone and they would put you in touch with whatever person you needed to be in touch with. These days, you're on the phone for 3 times that amount of time just trying to get to a person to talk to, because the basic menu doesn't have your issue attached to a number that you press. And there is no such thing as 0 for the operator anymore. Simpler times. I long for the simpler times. And I really hope that's what we're working our way back to be honest. I remember when people used to go to the grocery store or the farmer's market or the local hardware store because they were buying things for their garden or whatever. But they would speak to people. They knew the people that owned the businesses. The people that owned the businesses would help people who were in trouble if necessary. You know, there's a million examples I could come up with, but you all know what I'm talking about. You remember too. Now, granted, those people started getting majorly taken advantage of, and you know, so again, I understand the reason why those kinds of practices had to come to an end. But did they? Or did we drop the ball? Did we drop the ball as our generation instead of when we found out that Joe Smith down the street didn't pay his credit at the grocery store or at the hardware store because the owner told us, you know, then we should have gone to check on Joe Smith and find out why Joe Smith didn't have the money that he promised to give this store owner. You know what I mean? And just refuse to allow people with those kinds of morals to exist in our general vicinity. We kind of started leaving everything up to the cops and the court systems. And we let a good thing slide through our fingers. I believe we can get it back. I believe we should take it back. What did I hear just the other day? It was about Tyson. There's a real good example right there that we could use for the moment. Apparently, Tyson is strong-arming the ranchers over the price of meat. And they're prepared to shut down manufacturing plants, take away people's jobs by the thousands, and whatever else they have to do in order to get the ranchers to agree to pay or to take ridiculous prices for their meat. You know what that said to me? That said to me that Tyson has gotten just a little bit too big for their britches. And what should we do for companies that have gotten just a little too big for their britches, that think that they can strong arm their way into price gouging our ranchers, our fellow citizens? I wonder who owns Tyson. Anyway, I can tell you this. I don't need to go grocery shopping right now, but if I did, I'd be reading labels. And if the brand name of Tyson was on anything I was considering buying, I'd put it right back on the shelf. This whole country needs to adopt that attitude. Oh, you're going to try to put our ranchers out of business? That's messing with my food chain down the way. So you know what? I think it's just time for you to go out of business. Maybe one of these ranchers over here can scrounge up enough money to buy your business out from under you when it's worth absolutely nothing to anybody else. And yeah, our food supply will be fine. What do you mean you want to buy this ranch land or this farmland that's been in this family for 200 years? No, you can't have it. And the whole community needs to rally around the family that owns it to help them keep it. Help them work it for free if you have to. But I'm telling you, you better start looking into the future a little bit and taking care of your neighbors who take care of you. And if they're growing the fruits, vegetables, or animals for you to eat, trust me, they're taking care of you. Take care of them. Do whatever it takes. Bunch of stupid rules and policies. Well, they can't arrest us all, right? No, it's time to start standing up, using that stamina. What is the word I'm looking for? It isn't just stamina. It is that stick to it. Don't back down. I never lose. I always win because I'm bigger. That's my generation. And I don't like what you're doing to my country. I want to change it. All these big corporations that think they've got a handle on everything. You know who's got a handle on them? You. Stop being the consumer that they have tried to mold you into being. Stop being that person. Stop buying from that company that doesn't treat their employees right. Go somewhere else. Shop local, for God's sake, if you have half a chance. I know that's getting more difficult out there. In a lot of places, there aren't any little local businesses left anymore. Everything is some big corporation type situation. But if you're out there and you're hanging on by a thread, grab a needle, start trying to sew that back up, and take care of your community. Because I really do feel like all of that's about to be really important pretty soon. And I'm not into doom and gloom. Like, I don't foresee the future as any part of it, and not any portion of it being bad. A little difficult, maybe. A little uncomfortable for a minute, probably. But are we in such a hopeless situation where all we need to do is just throw our hands up and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it? Nah, man, we've been sitting around doing that for too long. There is something we can do about it. We do not have to listen to or obey the powers that be if they're telling us something that's wacko crazy. Period. That's not what I signed up for. I signed up for the house with the picket fence. The one car, because that's all I need. And I had 5 children. They're all grown. So I did double portion there. Y'all, I know what we went through was unique and sometimes difficult. But man, look at the people that it turned us into. We are absolutely and completely unstoppable. And the younger generations, they need us now. They are reaching out to us now. Instead of ignoring us or telling us that we don't know what we're talking about. They kind of want to know now, like, how does this work? And we need to be there to tell them. Because it's actually going to help us in a major way to work through our traumas, our phobias, our feelings of not being seen, not being heard. We've been sitting in the corner. We even gave up on waiting our turn. I guess. We were just waiting to be done. But yeah, no, we can't give up that easy. We gotta help these kids. They need some direction. They need hope more than anything. And they're being told right, left, and center that that it's all hopeless and it's just being shit canned and it's all going away and it's gonna end up in a cloud of dust. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Their side, there's really not even sides. There is an aspect of this current society that is going to crumble. It's going to fail because it has to. The way that it's running, the way that it's functioning. I mean, how far back in history do you want to go? It's SSDD, y'all. It's the same thing happening all over again. And if you've got eyes to see, you can see that very clearly. But that doesn't mean that it has to be catastrophic for all of us. Some of us are figuring out how to actually be self-sustaining people. And we are going to be ready, willing, and able to teach some of the rest of you how to be that way as well. Where you can tell the crumbling, falling to pieces, has no hope portion of society to go fly a kite. You got better things to do. You got vegetables to plant, animals to tend to, food to grow, land to touch. It's going to be okay. It's going to be better than okay. Because we got this. Let's make it happen.